It seems to me that if we suffer in closer proximity to each other, we are more likely to be compelled to show solidarity to the other. The notion that we are physically, literally in this together. So there's a relationship between our proximity and suffering that can, at least as human beings, afford us the opportunity to show solidarity. Would you say
Yeah,
that's fair?
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think so.
And maybe that's one of our profound challenges. There's not only X thousand miles between the global north, so to speak, and the global south, but there are also paradigms, and there's also a lack of feeling of commonality. And it's difficult when you are materially safe and materially comfortable to feel for anyone else. Yet, despite our close physical proximity, we're actually worlds apart. How do we break those barriers?
I think the feeling of cohesion for me goes with the feeling of belonging to a same place, a same entity, and goes in terms of the scale beyond the pure administrative boundary of the city. It should be based on where people actually work and live. And what we've seen recently with this pandemic is the rise of a discourse around, for example, the 15-minute city. You must have heard that, which in other places than Paris and big capital cities that are now borrowing this concept that has gone viral and is extremely interesting. It's this idea that instead of continuing to drive people from point A to point B, we should rethink the amenities and the services around places where people live. And these amenities are not just I go for work, it's I have access to school, I have access to leisure, I have access to transport, to a doctor, everything that is this multidimensional aspect of well-being. Now, of course, not every city can have its hospital, you need a functional for some of these amenities, at regional level, you need a functional scale. But the concept is very interesting. Now, what is the risk? The risk is that we create new forms of spatial segregation, whereby we have neighborhoods that are becoming kind of self-sufficient, disconnected from one another, and not equally accessible to different social groups. You need that 15-minute city or 10 or 20 or half an hour territory. You have many creative concepts that are emerging to be extremely well connected to the surrounding areas. And for that, you need transport. Public transport is the lever that drives territorial cohesion. This discourse that we need, and that is also carbon neutral driven, about the bicycle and walking and clean forms of urban mobility, it's an absolute must have. I mean, I'm not saying this is not the direction, but it shouldn't mask the real debate, which is the heavy investment that we need in transports and the density and the quality of transport, because this is the public transport that can reconnect rural urban areas and somehow mitigate those forms of spatial segregation. And therefore, you need some mobility within the proximity. It's not either or. And as long as we are not, let's say, giving a strong reality check to that discourse on accessibility, we are remaining in a sort of elitist view of what the city should be for a few happy few, basically. And then those a bit away, it's okay to use your car as long as you don't come to the core urban center where we can cycle. And I think that split is also contributing to discontent, to frustration, to lack of understanding of why we need to transition to a low carbon economy and so on. So really, public goods, public services are essential to mitigate, and reduce the risks of gentrification and spatial segregation that we are facing in our cities, in particular the big ones.